with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making us the fastest growing news website in the nation. Because the truth matters, and so do you.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A7 is closed in both directions at Hughes due to a road traffic incident. Drivers should follow signed diversion routes and allow extra travel time. On the M62 westbound in Warrington, one of 4 lanes is closed due to a collision. The M4 westbound in Slough has a collision closing 2 lanes, causing about an hour of delays. In Derbyshire, the A38 southbound is congested from the A50 to the A5132 junction. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast faces major disruption between Carlisle and Preston. TransPennine Express is also experiencing disturbances. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
We're giving you the chance to win your entire Christmas this year paid for by us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. A 8:10 in the morning statement from the Chancellor of the Exchequer basically telling us what we knew already, that tax rises are coming. But frankly, what was the point of the whole thing? Plus, we have a statement today from the father and the 14-year-old victim of the sexual assault committed by this man on your screen, Kabatu, who of course was accidentally let out of Chelmsford prison. And the Chagosians are really fighting hard. They've got a legal action going on. They've managed to get a vote today in the House of Lords delayed, and they've got a song out celebrating their culture and their islands, and they join me on the show as well this evening. But before all of that, let's get the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nigel, thank you very much and good evening. The top stories. Rachel Reeves has refused to rule out tax rises, saying she'll make the necessary choices in her budget later this month. It comes amid warnings from the Resolution Foundation that tax rises are inevitable. The OBR is also expected to downgrade its productivity forecast, leaving a £20 billion gap in the public finances. Speaking from Downing Street, the Chancellor said her statement on the 26th of November will focus on fairness and opportunity, but she admitted the world has thrown challenges our way.
Mine will be a budget for growth, with fairness at its heart, and a budget that supports businesses to create jobs and to innovate. As I take my decisions on both tax and spend, I will do what is necessary to protect families from high inflation and interest rates, to protect our public services from a return to austerity, and to ensure that the economy that we hand down to future generations is secure, with debt under control.
Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch hit back, claiming Rachel Reeves' speech proves Labour has given up on living within its means.
Chancellor's speech was one long waffle bomb. A laundry list of excuses. She blamed absolutely everybody else for her own choices, her own decisions, her own failures.
In other news, the brother of the Southport killer said his parents lost control of their son and he feared his younger sibling could kill a member of their family, a public inquiry's heard. Axel Rudakabana, then 17 years old, killed 3 children at a Taylor Swift themed dance workshop on the 29th of July last year. The Southport inquiry, sitting at Liverpool Town Hall, heard the attacker's brother Dion Rudakabana told a friend there was a risk of his brother doing something potentially fatal. Dion said his brother reminded him of the sociopathic murderer in the film No Country for Old Men. The BBC has been accused of doctoring a Donald Trump speech to make it appear he encouraged the Capitol Hill riot. An internal memo seen by The Telegraph claims a Panorama episode broadcast a week before the US election completely misled viewers. It showed Mr. Trump urging supporters to fight like hell when he actually said to march peacefully and patriotically. The Telegraph says it will publish more allegations of the BBC's bias in its Gaza coverage and censorship on transgender issues as well. The BBC told GB News it doesn't comment on leaked documents, but said all feedback is taken seriously. Tommy Robinson has been cleared of a terror offence after refusing to give police his phone PIN when stopped at the Channel Tunnel last year. The 42-year-old had been driving to Spain when police demanded access to his iPhone under anti-terror powers. The judge found him not guilty, ruling police acted unlawfully, detaining him under the Terrorism Act. Robinson's defence argued officers targeted him because of his political views, not because of any link to terrorism. And finally, the former US Vice President Dick Cheney, the man often described as America's most powerful second-in-command, has died at the age of 84. Cheney, who served under President George W. Bush and helped to shape America's response to the 9/11 attacks, was the driving force behind the Iraq War and the broader war on terror, despite surviving 5 heart attacks and a heart transplant. In 2012, he remained an influential voice until his death. Those are the latest headlines for now. It's back to Farage.
Good evening. Let's have a think about what Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, was telling us this time last year.
We have now drawn a line under the inheritance that I faced. Public finances are now on a firm footing, and also our public services are funded in a proper way. And we've now set the envelope for those public services for the rest of this Parliament, which means we're not going to have to come back for more.
Translated into actual English, what she meant this time last year was, I've whacked up taxes already and I'm not going to need to do it again. But extraordinarily, she gave a press conference at 8:10 this morning, and this is what she said.
If we are to build the future of Britain together, we will all have to contribute to that effort. Each of us must do our bit for the security of our country and the brightness of its future.
Well, it was pretty dismal stuff all round, but basically what it means today, I think, is that, as we expected, and as has been leaked already, that taxes are going to go up, though she wasn't specific about which ones they would be. I think we all assume it is going to be income tax. But I wonder, what was the point of all of that at 8:10 this morning? Was it simply to calm the markets? I simply don't know. In fact, what was it all about? You tell me, Farage on GB News, or email farage@gbnews.com. I'm joined in the studio by Liam Halligan, economist and now author of When the Facts Change, Substack, and Joe Phillips and Cyrano Jayawardena. Liam, what was the point of all that?
Well, she's gearing up to break a manifesto pledge, Nigel. She said back in October 2024, Labour's first budget in 14 years, when she put up taxes by 40 billion and raised borrowing by 30 billion, the most fiscally punitive budget since the early 1990s. She said then, I'm not going to come back for more because now I've fixed the foundations of the economy. But unfortunately, her tax rises, particularly the increase in employer national insurance contributions, have crushed the labour market. Hiring has fallen every month since October 2024. Unemployment's gone up every month since October 2024. And unfortunately, she's ideologically boxed in. The Labour left, they see a fiscal hole. They think we must raise taxes morning, noon and night. They don't ever think about reining in even the rate of growth of spending. That's what their so-called welfare reforms were about. And her tax rises, unfortunately, Nigel, and this is an objective truth because we can see it happening, her tax rises have curtailed economic growth. We have a recession when it comes to growth per head, GDP per capita, a point I know that you've made, and our borrowing costs are way, way higher than they were even at the height of the Liz Truss so-called mini-budget crisis. We are by far and away an outlier. We haven't got the biggest debt in the G7, though Labour's working on that.
Although the fastest growing.
Yeah, we've got the fastest growing debt, and what markets hate is rates of change. That's what markets deal in. It's not levels, because levels are history. Rates of change are what's important. And even though we've got middle-of-the-pack levels of debt in the UK, so what the Chancellor said about our debt is actually factually incorrect. We've got the fastest growing debt, and we've got easily the highest borrowing costs in the G7. And that is why we're now spending more on our debt interest than we are on education, more on our debt interest, twice as much as we spend on defence, which is completely immoral.
And we've not had this debate, have we? Because for 14 years, the Tories said, we're cutting the deficit, so don't worry your poor little heads at home, everything's fine. But, of course, the deficit and debt are two different things.
They are. So the deficit is the amount of shortfall that the government has to borrow each year. The debt is the stock of debt, which is now 2.6 trillion, which the government must pay interest on each month. And those interest costs, I say, they're now twice the defence budget. What we had today from Rachel Reeves was an attempt to calm financial markets. But what she actually did is she kept saying that what the Tories did after the global financial crisis from 2009, 2010 onwards, yes, the Tories did control the deficit. They brought down the amount we were borrowing each year. But it wasn't real austerity, sorry, because the national debt went up almost threefold.
Because, they tripled the national debt.
And they printed like £500 billion worth of funny money via the Bank of England. So,
why have we not had a national debate about this? How have they been allowed to do it?
Because broadcasters haven't got the stomach to have this debate. It's all, oh my God, austerity was terrible. And there were certain government departments that did actually have to live within their means and so on. But in the round, public sector debt almost tripled during the austerity years, so it wasn't real austerity. And Reeves made a massive mistake in her budget, in her speech today, in which she dismissed those Tory years of budgetary controls as a mistake. Well, the financial markets will be listening to that. She's basically just done pretty much what Andy Burnham tried to do.
Well, if it was
the sort of Prince over the water.
We don't care
let's just forget it. We've got to get over being in the bond markets. She's just done the same thing by saying those Tory years of moderate financial controls, they were a mistake. We're not going to do them again.
Well, if she was going to calm the market, sterling went down on the markets. I didn't see what interest rates did today.
Well, the 30-year yield was actually pretty steady.
Right.
But what she should be trying to do before a budget is bring it down by reassuring them. If she tried to reassure them, it didn't work. In fairness to her, in the last few weeks, we must be even-handed about these things. In the last few weeks, the 30-year gilt yield has come down, which means the markets are giving her a bit more credibility. But they're giving her a bit more credibility because they're thinking she may finally now realise that if she's not going to control spending, as I would do if I was the Chancellor, I'd certainly try very hard. She's not going to control spending, so the next best thing is to raise taxes in the way that you mean it, so you do get some extra revenue. And that means breaking a manifesto pledge of income tax, VAT, or employee, we now know, national insurance. I reckon she's going to raise income tax by a couple of bips, 2p. That'll raise about 15 billion. And for now, the markets will go, OK, that's a down payment. You're serious. you're willing to upset people, but are you willing to take on the economically illiterate left of your own party, Chancellor, who cannot even countenance the idea of any kind of spending controls? That's what the markets want to see.
And that's the new politics, Ranald, isn't it? That we've suddenly got. The left in British politics have an electoral voice, and I mean quite a long way left, that we've never seen before.
Yeah, this is the hangover from Jeremy Corbyn, actually, in many ways.
Yeah.
And we're seeing this in the Green Party as well. And, you know, the Liberal Democrats have become now very firmly a left-wing party, not the centrist party that they were under Nick Clegg. And so you've got loads of people who just want to spend loads of money. And, you know, this was a really panicked, I think, press conference, pulled out of nowhere, simply because she's talked herself into a position where anything could happen in the budget, causing huge instability for investors, for the markets, as we've just heard. No one can plan when there is not a clear plan from the Treasury. And, you know, no one voted for these high taxes. And I think this is a really important point about trust in democracy. You know, so yes, you've got these lefties in the Labour Party and elsewhere who might want higher taxes and to tax the rich, anyone over £45,000 apparently, or whatever they choose tomorrow. But no one voted for higher taxes and out-of-control spending. But that's what they're getting with this Prime Minister and Chancellor.
From a PR perspective, Joe, just looking at the imagery, her body language, I mean, she managed not to cry, I suppose, but it came across to me as a pretty dismal thing.
Well, it is dismal, and she is Eeyore, isn't she? You know, she is the Eeyore of the government. This is the speech she should have made a year ago. You know, if you are going to have a grown-up conversation with your own party, with the public and with the markets, you've got to say, right, and, you know, Liam can argue about austerity or not, but, you know, what the Tories failed to do was invest in public services, and we know that we are constantly on this programme talking about the state of prisons, Ranald. You know, that's one area.
Public services, I mean, this is the problem. You know, investment is about getting a payback, and all the left ever talks about is investment when they mean spending. Investment in its true sense, in terms of borrowing on the markets, would be about our infrastructure, things that are going to deliver economic growth, not investment in public services.
Well, OK, so then you don't invest in prisons and you end up with a crisis, and then you
might want to choose to build more prisons. That's a policy decision.
Well, but I mean, you know, the real point about all of this is you can use whatever phrase you want. The fact is, under the Conservatives, as Liam quite rightly said, our national debt went up nearly threefold, and our interest repayments are now more than we're spending on defence. So we are in crisis. Sorry, I apologise.
No, absolutely. But, you know, if you're going to come in with a walloping great majority, albeit wafer thin, you know, that is the time to be bold and say, right, we're cutting the triple lock, never mind fanning around with the winter fuel allowance. You know, they should have done it when they came in and taken on their own rebels over welfare reform. But, you know, you've got to cut the pensions bill, you've got to cut the benefits bill.
And it doesn't seem politically possible.
Well, we'll see.
With the way the Parliament... One other thing, Liam, that wasn't mentioned today but's been talked about, this idea of an exit tax. That if you want to
Settling up tax, old boy.
I thought only communist regimes trap their people inside. Is this a realistic prospect?
Apparently it is. You know, who knows the inner reaches of Torsten Bell's mind, the former head of the Resolution Foundation.
Is he the guy writing the budget?
Of course. Well, of course, he's all over the budget.
Are you telling me that this 10-year economist from the Bank of England is not capable of...
She's busy at a chess tournament. But look, let's talk about what's really happened in the last 24 hours, if I may. Right, what's really happened in the last 24 hours is you've given a speech.
I know. And they're all jumping around.
Yeah, you've given a speech and you've said you are the first senior political figure in this country to say that you reckon, and you're a very financially literate bloke, as is your deputy. I mean, that's just an objective fact. You've been a proper metals trader. He's run a big property company for many years. You've said that you think there's going to be some kind of fiscal meltdown. I did. Right? And it's only up until this point, apart from the odd Cambridge professor who I've interviewed, serious people, apart from me, haven't put their head above the parapet and actually said that. You're now saying that you think there's going to be a fiscal crisis by 2027 and that the left, the economically illiterate left of the Labour Party will no confidence their own Prime Minister. The markets are talking about little else apart from that scenario. As we speak, people are doing sort of PowerPoint presentations with little flow charts.
So is that what she had to respond to?
I think she did respond partly because you spoke. I do think that's true.
Yeah.
And I also think you've taken a risk, if I may say so, by saying something that sounds mad, but actually it isn't mad. I totally agree with you, by the way. As you know, I've been writing that for a long time.
I know.
And a lot of people in currency markets and the bond markets think that too, but they just can't say it because it sounds as if you're talking down your country. But we have to have this conversation. Because unless we have this conversation, we're not going to build up the political head of steam that we need to build up to properly get our public finances under control.
So, Liam, if she was actually responding to Nigel's speech, even though this was presumably planned and written in advance, what she could have done...
It does.
But what she could have done is to say, OK, nobody likes ripping up their manifesto pledges, but look, Nigel Farage is changing the manifesto, and I have to do the same.
She could have done. And if you had people around Keir Starmer who are as talented and / devious as the people that surrounded Tony Blair in terms of his press operation, they may have come up with that, Joe. And as a spin doctor, you're exactly right. But
I'm not devious,
as a citizen and a taxpayer, what I want to see from her today was her properly talking to financial markets and saying there's nothing progressive about having a sterling crisis, about having a gilt strike when you can't pay your own debt. There's nothing progressive or pro-poor people about having a fiscal meltdown. No. This is why financial markets, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. I get it. And I'm going to control spending. But she doesn't dare to do that because her own party would have her out.
And that's the political trap.
That's the problem.
Liam, always a pleasure to have you in. And yeah, I think you and I, too, are the most bearish people in the country at the moment. Let's hope we're wrong.
Let's hope we're wrong.
I don't think we are. In a moment, I've got a spokesman coming in for the family where the 14-year-old girl was sexually assaulted by that man Kabatu who was let out of Chelmsford prison by mistake. And that includes a statement from the 14-year-old girl herself.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I asked you, what on earth was this morning all about? David says it was about a chancellor who inherited a bad hand and made it far worse. Instead of cutting costs, easing the burden on business and tackling inflation, she handed out pay rises to the public sector allies, ignored the ballooning welfare bill, treated wealth creators like cash cows and fueled inflation with higher business costs. Blinded by socialist ideology, she's locked us into repeating the same mistakes every single budget. Interesting. Mel says, Nigel, the reason why Reeves gave that speech this morning is clear. Labour are hanging her out to dry by making sure she, and she alone, will be held responsible for this budget. Evidence. Where are all her fellow ministers and or Treasury officials on the media supporting her? That's actually quite a smart comment, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
From Mel.
Absolutely.
That's a very, don't know who you are, Mel, but you're a star. You're a star. Keep sending comments in.
Her days are numbered.
That actually is a very, very good comment. Right, OK. Let's have a look at this picture of this man, Kabatu. You know who he is. He's the guy that sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl in Epping. It led to the protests outside the Bell Hotel. He was imprisoned. He was then released from prison by mistake, was on the run and rearrested 48 hours later. I'm joined in the studio by Shane Verrill, Epping Forest councillor and a spokesman for the 14-year-old victim's family. And as I understand it, Shane, both the 14-year-old and her father have both decided to make public statements.
Yeah.
And you're about to tell us what they are.
Yeah. They've come to the point now where they just wanted to say something, express how she's feeling. They've all struggled, all of the family at the moment, in particular the parents. But I'll start with a statement from the victim.
Yes.
I was out with my friends and my mum called to say that the man had been released and he was out. I was in shock and straight away I felt so scared and so anxious and wanted to go home. So I called my dad and he came to pick me up. I was so scared I was going to see him and he would recognise me. I couldn't sleep on Friday because I was so worried he was going to come back to Epping looking for me. On Saturday I was talking to friends to see if he'd been seen back in Epping. I was scared for my friends in case he'd come back and see them too. Eventually I fell asleep early Saturday night. And when I woke up on Sunday, my dad told me that they had found him. I was so happy but upset at the same time. I think it's disgusting how me and my family have been treated in all of this. And it's not fair that he was released by accident. And I feel I was put in danger all over again. And all of the feelings from the day it happened came back. We found out he was being deported and I was being told by everyone that he got paid £500. And when I got home, I just cried because I felt like he got paid for what he'd done to me.
Poor kid. And a statement from the father as well.
Yeah. On the day that I found out that Hadush Kabatu was accidentally released, I was both shocked and disgusted. I didn't believe it was real. When I realised it was, all I kept thinking was how. I needed answers for myself and my family. So I drove to HMP Chelmsford to seek them answers. As I arrived, I walked into reception and explained to the staff at the front desk that I was the father of the 14-year-old who was sexually assaulted in Epping, and I would like to know how the man who sexually assaulted her had been released and was still walking onto the streets. A member of staff at reception put their finger up to me through the glass and said no. They were shushing me. I was greeted with hostility and complete disregard for anything I said or asked, totally disrespecting myself and my family. A few other officers came to the front desk. I asked them how they would feel if they were in my shoes. Still no response. Nobody gave me the time of day. One officer even threatened to call security. I wasn't violent and I wasn't making any threats. I became frustrated because of everything that had happened that day. The same prison who accidentally released a paedophile couldn't even have a conversation with me. There was no consideration for our family or my daughter's feelings. This really hurt me. These are the people who are meant to safeguard victims from their perpetrators, and make sure that they are locked up securely away from committing any further offences.
Very strong stuff.
Yeah.
They are really, really upset.
They're hurting. They really are. There's been letdown after letdown from going back from the sentencing, that a year's not enough for a paedophile, to then the fact that they weren't even told that he was going to be released, and then they had to find out. The father actually found out from a reporter that he'd been released, and then had to watch videos all over social media of Chagos Islands walking around talking to people.
And of course, you know, the guys that turned up and assaulted police officers got double the prison sentences.
They did, yeah.
I mean, you know, he got a year. He could have got a lot longer than that under the terrorist allowed.
Got a lot longer. As you say, the guys that I'm not making right of some of the things that happened outside the Bell Hotel, but why should they get longer than a paedophile?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you're an elected representative in the area.
Yeah.
What's the situation now at the Bell Hotel?
There's protests weekly. There's still the protest. I think Epping's on a knife edge at the moment. There's a lot of frustration. Epping are waiting on a decision from the High Court in regards to the injunction. So everybody's just hoping for the best, but they feel frustrated as well. A lot of the local parents have spoke about taking their children out of the school because of the guys at the hotel are still there. And we're not saying, people of Epping are not saying that everyone in that hotel is a bad person, but there's been several offences, not just a sexual assault, incidents of violence as well. So it's just too much, it's too close to a school.
Yeah. Those statements, Joe.
Yeah, they're awful.
They really are.
And, you know, that poor girl is going to be scarred for the rest of her life. There is no getting around it. And it's terrible for all of them. I'm surprised, I have to say, that the father was able to walk into a prison and up to a front desk. You did say prison, not police station.
He walked into the reception at the prison, so, yeah.
OK. And you know, you can completely sympathise with the anger and the fury because, I mean, everybody in the country, I'm sure, when they saw that Chagos had been accidentally released and then saw the footage of him looking genuinely confused. Yeah. That's the other thing that's really weird about this, that he went back and 5 times was apparently told to go, just go. And I think, you know, the best thing that anyone can hope for is that, yes, of course, many people feel the sentence should have been longer, but actually he's gone. He's out of this country.
Well, he is now.
Yeah, well...
He is now, but,
yes,
it was a very short sentence.
Yes, no, I know, but it's better that he's gone than sitting in prison.
And you can see why two-tier justice is being discussed when, sure, there were 3 guys that turned up and behaved loutishly. We can't defend what they did, but they get 2.5 years in prison.
They attack police officers,
No,
Nigel.
I'm not defending the behaviour at all.
No.
But it's as if the protesters are worse than someone who commits sexual assault on a 14-year-old. Yeah. Do you see why two-tier justice is the perception many people have?
I think we've talked about this before, and we've agreed that, you know, and this is why Rob Jenrick gave his speech a little while ago, a couple of weeks ago, to say, look, this has got to stop. You know, politicians are directly accountable to the public, and politicians, whoever's in government, should decide certain things like the tariff that are given to certain types of criminals. The idea that a sentencing council, an independent body of goody-body, decide these things. That can't go on. And also, I mean, I have to say, the governor here, the governor of the prison, you know, governors are responsible for managing prisons. Most governors do a very good job in difficult circumstances. But why did the governor not come and meet the girl's father? That would have been a perfectly reasonable
and human thing to do.
Well, as far as I understand, they didn't even want to have a conversation with him. It would, but from what he said to me, is that it would have been nice if somebody come over to just explain.
Exactly.
He did also tell me that when he went into the prison, he said, "I'm not saying it's your fault individually, but I just want." All he wanted was
we should look again.
Some accountability of some kind.
But the governor or whoever is in charge. The transport. Was the transport? Do we know? Privatised? Was it one of those sort of outsourced things, or was it prison transport? Because that's another
question.
question.
To be released from the prison.
I know they do. But I mean, you know, the buck should stop with the governor.
Yeah.
Shane, can I ask you, are the family getting good support locally?
They're getting good support locally. They are from people. The 14-year-old herself has undergone some counselling.
Good.
So that's important, but not from the people at the top. They've not even had an apology from anybody. From the government, and I reached out personally a week ago today to David Lammy asking for a meeting with him, myself and the father,
Yeah.
and I've not even had a response. It shouldn't take a week to respond.
This is the disconnect that there is.
This is wrong.
The goody two-shoes, the
wrong.
and the people
Wrong. Shane, I want to say thank you to you.
Thank you
for coming in and for giving us these statements here on GB News. And they are indeed very, very sobering. And you can take back our kind thoughts.
Thank you,
please,
I appreciate that.
to the family.
I'll
And thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. In a moment, a BBC scandal. Well, would you have it? David Lammy says, I've got a statement from Lammy, how about that? Of course I'm sorry that any victim of crime had the anxious weekend they had. It was important for me to ensure that police liaison were in touch with them, and I'm grateful to Essex Police for doing that. It's also important to me that Lynn Owens is able to speak to them so that their concerns are reflected in her full and final report. We have a response from David Lammy. There you are, live on air. In a moment, the BBC, Panorama. Yes, they have doctored footage of what was said by Donald Trump. It is an absolute disgrace. But I wonder, will any heads roll? There we are. It wasn't too bad, was it? Well...
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
If you're looking to escape the autumnal weather in the UK, well, there is also some unsettled weather through the Mediterranean. The focus in the east and the west at the moment, with Greece seeing some heavy showers, particularly towards the south, and even some longer spells of rain. Italy, though, faring well for sunny skies, likewise for the south of France. But we do have this wet and windy weather sweeping through Portugal on Wednesday, into Spain, and then clearing into eastern Spain during Thursday.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Certainly been a soggy start to the week and further spells of rain are expected over the next 24 hours. The emphasis shifting north. It stays cloudy, it stays breezy. Further spells of rain moving south to north across the United Kingdom. And as we go into the evening, actually, the wettest of the weather moves from southwest England up through Wales into the Midlands and then eventually ends up across northern England, southern and central Scotland, as well as Northern Ireland. A damp night for many, in other words. It's also a breezy night, but that breeze helping to keep temperatures into the teens, even for the southeast, where in fact it stays dry with clear spells. One exception, northern Scotland, where we've got the clear spells and light winds, and as a result, temperatures dipping into the mid-single figures. So a cooler start here, first thing, but plenty of fine weather for Shetland, Orkney, the far north of the mainland, the Outer Hebrides. The rest of Scotland, though, cloudy and damp with some wet weather moving into the south. Northern Ireland, on and off rain, particularly towards the east, and it's a damp picture for the west of England as well as Wales, but not as wet as Tuesday. The Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast faring well for brightness first thing, and in fact we'll see some sunny spells through the day with it staying mostly dry once again. The breeze from the south continues to import mild air, so temperatures up to 15, 16, even 17 Celsius in places, but it does turn damp once again towards the west of England and Wales by the afternoon with some showery rain in places. For bonfire nights, well, it looks like there'll be some rain in the north, but drier elsewhere with clear spells and mild across the board. And that gets us off to a generally cloudy start on Thursday once again. Areas of cloud here and there, but a drier day for many. England and Wales seeing some sunny spells. Friday, likewise, some sunny spells here and there, but a band of rain will move west to east through the day.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health, Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
The BBC. Now, Donald Trump has never been a fan of the BBC, but he certainly won't be after this. The speech that he gave, the infamous speech, I suppose, that he gave on the 6th of January before the storming of the Capitol, was completely doctored by the BBC's Panorama programme. Have a look at the real version and the Panorama version.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
So he said, we're going to walk down to the Capitol, I'll be with you, we're going to cheer on our brave senators. And look, he was contesting the result of the election. Absolutely. By the way, not the first person to do it. The Democrats heavily contested the result of an election 25 years before that, and we went through months and months of court cases. But what Panorama did was to take what he said 53 minutes later and doctor that into the clip and say, look, Trump basically urged people to go and storm the Capitol. And it is an absolute disgrace. Joe, I know you're all over this story. This has been leaked from the BBC, hasn't it?
Yes, and I think it's important for people to understand this was a programme that went out about a year ago, just before the American election.
It could have influenced the election.
Unlikely, I would have thought. But, you know, it went out then. Many people might have watched it, might not bothered, might not have noticed. It's not unusual, and I'm sure anyone who watches television knows perfectly well, to clip things. And, you know, politicians, including you, often say they've taken it out of context because you haven't taken the whole bit.
Sure.
But that is clearly very bad editing, because what they haven't done, they haven't made a montage where they've got, you know, pictures and things. It sounds as though the sentence runs together. But what I find more worrying, Nigel, is A, that should never have happened, but B, Michael Prescott, who I have known for a very long time, you know, who is a very...
This is the guy that's put the story out there.
Well, he is the independent advisor to the BBC on their sort of, or was up until the summer.
Standards, basically.
Yes, basically. And he raised deep concerns over this, and he raised it at the highest level. Now, you know, there are a number of layers of hierarchy in the BBC, and nobody saw fit to do anything about it. Now, I think that is the shocking thing. It's not so much the appalling editing and the lack of, you know, and it's made by an independent production company. Well, I used to run an independent production company, and they were all over us like a rash, you know, checking everything. So I don't understand why either the head of news, Deborah Turness, or Samir Shah, chairman of the governors, or the head of the BBC, Tim Davie, have not sorted this out. And for the BBC to say today, oh, we won't comment on leaked material, I think there is a reason. And, you know, I will defend the BBC till my dying day, because they do brilliant things and it is one of our best assets, but it's only an asset if you can trust it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the point, isn't it? Institutional bias. It seems to be very deep within the BBC. Liz Kershaw made a comment today. You know, she was 30 years at the BBC on news and various entertainment programmes as well. And her point was that actually, the way she put it, it's almost as if they all come from the same background, similar class. They're so biased, they don't even think they're biased.
Yeah, trust is really hard to earn, but very easy to lose. And with examples like this, you know, that trust that the BBC does need and has in the past deserved is very easy to lose. And it's no wonder people say that they are biased. When you see this sort of reporting and editing, it's just not on. And, you know, actually, I think the BBC, in hindsight, will go, hang on, how did this happen? heads need to roll.
Yeah.
That's the only way people will learn.
But we've had this, we had Bob Villan at Glastonbury.
This is not the first.
No, and it's this thing about where's your sense where you know something is wrong? As a producer, as a director, anybody who's ever been...
You should know it's wrong.
It's instinctive. And you would actually sit in the editing suite and you'd go, hang on a minute, we need to change the pictures to make sure that it's clear.
Now, do we have a BBC response to this for me to read out? Yes, we do. A BBC spokesman told GB News, while we don't comment on leaked documents, when the BBC receives feedback, it takes it seriously and considers it carefully. Michael Prescott is a former advisor to a board committee where differing views and opinions of our coverage are routinely discussed and debated. And we're going to put the licence fee up to £181 a year. So there you are. If you don't pay it, you could go to prison, but you could always watch GB News for free. Now, it's been quite a good day for the brave Chagosian community. They're busy with a legal case. They've lobbied hard, members of the House of Lords, to say you can't just give away these islands without at least consulting these people. Don't they have some human rights? Don't they have some degree of national self-determination? And they've launched a song to celebrate their islands and their culture.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The Chagosian community don't give up. They keep fighting, and there are some of us that keep doing our best to help them. But they have been very, very busy. They're pushing for a full judicial review on their right to be heard. And in the House of Lords today, interestingly, it seems that the lobbying, especially of Liberal Democrat peers, means that a motion the government was going to put today and have voted on later tonight is not going to happen. And it effectively means that the Chagos legislation going through the Lords is, for now at least, delayed. And I take that to be really quite good news. Because it's very odd, isn't it? We've got a government full of human rights lawyers who don't think the Chagosians should have any human rights at all or any say about their own national self-determination and destiny, which is what makes me so angry. But, despite all the battling, they're still a joyous bunch. And I'm joined in the studio by Drew Sawamba. And you guys have decided to put out a record about your lost homeland. Tell us what the inspiration was.
So it was basically the inspiration come through our grandparent. Me and my cousin, we wrote this song. So I was in Newark, yeah, and he was at Burnley.
Yeah.
So we video call each other and we say, so we write a song in Creole. Now we must go further to touch the people about what we are going to say about the song, so you can understand the language that we want to say. So we put all the emotion that we have from the bottom of our heart, so what our grandparents said to us, what they told us about the story of the Chagos Islands, etc. So that's why we put it in English. We write it first in Creole,
yep,
and then we translate it in English.
OK, I'll tell you what, let's hear some of it, shall we?
Yeah.
They never asked to be torn away, but the law wasn't on their side that day. Without their voice, they lost their right. Their identity faded out of sight. Oh no, they lost their islands, the archipelago Chagos. They lost their names, their hearts, their home. They used to live free, they used to live strong, surrounded by peace where they belong. They used to live where...
They're sad words.
Yeah.
And you guys, you know, generations on from what happened in, the late 60s, early 70s, you really feel this emotionally, don't you?
Yes, because, my grandmother has already passed away. So she wanted to be here to see what is going on, what is the progression about her island. That's why me and my cousin, we decided to say, but if we want to put emotion in the song, we must say it in our language.
Yeah.
So that's why we write the song in Creole and then we translate it in English. Hope that it will touch the heart of people.
Well, it certainly does mine. These people have had the worst deal of anybody in the world, haven't they?
It's amazing.
It's been unbelievable. I mean, what we've been doing to them for almost 6 decades, and we're still doing it.
Yeah, it's dreadful. But I think it is significant that the Lords have put a spanner in the works.
Yeah.
And I think it would be interesting to reflect, since we last talked about this with your colleague who came in, who wasn't singing, actually, but maybe involved in the song. Of course, China, there has been a slightly different emphasis on the Chinese relationship with the UK, not least because of the dodgy spying case.
Yeah.
And, of course, China loves this deal. So maybe it will give people pause for thought.
Well, I hope so. They've had a rotten deal.
Absolutely. Look, Britain does need the British Indian Ocean Territory for national security and indeed global security. It's a bad deal for Britain regards China. It's a bad deal for British taxpayers giving all this money to Mauritius so they can cut their taxes whilst Rachel Reeves...
And what about these guys?
And these are the people in the middle who have been forgotten through this entire process. And Steve Bray, who used to blast the anthem of the Soviet Union down Downing Street, well, I'd encourage these guys, play this so that Keir Starmer can't say...
Serrano is encouraging you to go out and make a jolly nuisance of yourself.
Have you ever been there, Drew? Have you ever been to Chagos?
No.
No, the opportunity is very difficult.
It's gone,
It's very difficult. But, on the outer islands, and we were discussing this earlier, marine tourism is now a massive thing in the world. You've had this incredible 200-mile protected ocean area. Now, of course, what will happen if this deal goes through? There'll be commercial Chinese fishing that'll take place, and probably not... But, I mean, there is a massive opportunity for these people to settle the other islands, and people would fly in from all over the world to see marlin, manta rays, whale sharks, and the wonders of the ocean.
Yeah, absolutely. For the protection of the environment, there's another tick in the box why this deal must not happen, because Britain has done the right thing in protecting this ocean, and we know that China would not obey.
They wouldn't obey any of it. What's kept the community going? Because you've been fighting and fighting and fighting, and you know we've had Misley and others on the programme, you know, over the last year and more. Well, you know, there seems to be quite a sort of indomitable fighting spirit amongst you guys.
How that? Tell me again.
That's it. No, you guys just keep fighting. You've never given up.
No, we never given up. We always fight, always. Even in the bad time, we will keep fighting. Even in the good time also, we must continue fighting, because we must not put our arm down. We must continue to keep the guard up and fight.
Well, good, and we'll try and make sure, and I'll help. We'll try and distribute that song and let's try and make it a hit.
Ronald's going to come with you and play it outside.
Yeah, he's going to go protesting with you. I think he is. Now, final thought for this show. The new woke poppies. You know these poppies with the paper stems that just fall off the whole time and are completely and utterly useless. And so I've been wearing one of these poppy pins. But you can knock me down with a feather, because it seems that proper poppies with plastic that actually stay in place are back on sale.
I was delighted. You know, I popped to Fleet railway station last week and poppy collection there, and I was able to pick up one of these proper poppies. You know, poppies. Go woke, go broke. They must have found out that people didn't like the old ones, so thank goodness to the British people.
They were. I mean, I noticed fewer people were wearing them because the wretched things just fell off.
You were walking around with a pin.
Yes, that's right.
And then people would glare at you because you weren't wearing your poppy. I do like the little pins, though.
No, the little pins are smart.
Yeah.
The little pins are smart, but kind of...
But these stay on.
We've worn something like this for nearly all of our lives.
Yes.
And they do actually stay on.
And a lot of them are made by, you know, either people with disabilities or veterans and so on. Absolutely. So there's actually that sense of actually people being brought together to do this. It's part of the poppy appeal in itself.
Can I make a shout-out for the knitters around the country? I'm not a knitter.
Do.
But then there are people around the country who knit, and they knit for various occasions, and they knit where I live, in Kent. They knit poppies, so there are poppies festooned along railings, and they festoon pillar boxes with poppies and things, and they are absolutely brilliant.
I was admiring similar ones in church
there you go.
Sunday.
Well, there you are. Now, somebody who I suspect, like me, is not a fan of woke poppies is the person presenting State of the Nation up next on GB News, which is Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Well, Nigel, of course I agree with you, and I'm glad to say that Helena, my wife, managed to find me a proper poppy, which is what I'm wearing. Anyway, what am I going to be talking about? Obviously, Rachel Reeves, her softening us up for breaking her promises, the promises not to raise taxes, that it looks as if are coming. I think she should model herself on Jim Callaghan, who, when he failed in his promise in 1967, resigned. He was then able to come back to become Prime Minister. So actually doing the right thing can pay off in the long term. I might also mention your economic policy, because I think that's really interesting.
Very good. Well, I mean, I will lay you some very, very good odds on Rachel Reeves ever becoming Prime Minister, Jacob, and be very, 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 very happy to take your money. Or whether I've broken some gambling law on air, I've absolutely no idea. Anyway, it will be Jacob Rees-Mogg next. First, though, let's have a look at the all-important weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Certainly been a soggy start to the week and further spells of rain are expected over the next 24 hours. The emphasis shifting north. It stays cloudy, it stays breezy. Further spells of rain moving south to north across the United Kingdom. And as we go into the evening, actually, the wettest of the weather moves from southwest England up through Wales into the Midlands and then eventually ends up across northern England, southern and central Scotland, as well as Northern Ireland. A damp night for many, in other words. It's also a breezy night, but that breeze helping to keep temperatures into the teens, even for the southeast, where in fact it stays dry with clear spells. One exception, northern Scotland, where we've got the clear spells and light winds, and as a result, temperatures dipping into the mid-single figures. So a cooler start here, first thing, but plenty of fine weather for Shetland, Orkney, the far north of the mainland, the Outer Hebrides. The rest of Scotland, though, cloudy and damp with some wet weather moving into the south. Northern Ireland, on and off rain, particularly towards the east. And it's a damp picture for the west of England as well as Wales, but not as wet as Tuesday. The Midlands, East Anglia and the South East faring well for brightness first thing, and in fact we'll see some sunny spells through the day with it staying mostly dry once again. The breeze from the south continues to import mild air, so temperatures up to 15, 16, even 17 Celsius in places, but it does turn damp once again towards the west of England and Wales by the afternoon with some showery rain in places. For bonfire nights, well, it looks like there'll be some rain in the north, but drier elsewhere with clear spells and mild across the board. And that gets us off to a generally cloudy start on Thursday once again. Areas of cloud here and there, but a drier day for many. England and Wales seeing some sunny spells. Friday, likewise, some sunny spells here and there, but a band of rain will move west to east through the day.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
We could be delivering the perfect Christmas to you this year. There's £30,000 in tax-free cash to make 2026 the best year yet. A further £10,000 cash to spend on gifts for all the family. There's £1,000 to spend in your favourite supermarket. And a festively themed GB News